Welcome, everybody. Hello, and thanks for joining us on Sound Off Sports. I'm your host, Mike Davis. We got a very exciting show for you today. We're going to be breaking down everything going on with the NBA draft and, yes, the implications with Bronny James. Plus, we got to talk Connor McDavid. He gets the Conn Smythe Award, but the Oilers lose the cup. What does that mean? How crazy is that? We're breaking it all down on SOS. Don't miss out.
Make some noise. This is Sound Off Sports.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sound Off Sports. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Mike Davis, joined by my main man, producer James Edward Barrickman IV. James, great to be with you guys. So much to break down on this special episode of SOS, but let's first start with what everybody's talking about when it comes to the NBA draft. Yes, Bronny James. We asked all of you at home, if you were an NBA GM, would you in fact draft Bronny James? What did the people at home have to say, James?
This first one from Matt Biggs on Facebook. He says, if you want LeBron for a couple of years, then yeah. To help the team, no.
Okay, interesting stuff there. I kind of agree, but let's hear what else, another response someone had to say.
This next one, Heather Hayner Estes on Facebook. She says, quote, nope, he needs another year of college ball. He didn't even play a full year. He's only being looked at because of who his dad is.
Okay, yeah. So let's talk about the sample size with Bronny James for a second. Yes, cardiac arrest issue, health issues while he was playing at USC really didn't showcase to a lot of NBA GMs and execs what he can really do. But he has a lot of things going against him. I mean, for 6'2", he really isn't a true one. You know, he's more of a number 2 guard in the NBA, even at his height, but he really doesn't have a great outside shot. He's not really tremendous at creating his own shot. So it's going to be an uphill battle for him in terms of really capturing the imaginations of a lot of GMs and execs. And that's why we're seeing him really being tossed around as a second-round pick and not really a first-round pick at all. What else are people saying about this issue, James?
Greg Gomez on Facebook, he says, I just don't know what the rush is trying to get this guy into a pro player. He needs to go back to school and get some more fundamental training. What's the rush? He's only 18, 19 years old, so he still has another good 15 to 16 years to play at the highest level. Why rush him? I don't understand that. Let him take his time, let him grow, but no, I wouldn't draft him now. Maybe next year I would.
Well, the rush is because they're trying to sync up the timeline so Bronny can play with his father, LeBron James. That's the reason for the rush. Now, yes, I would have liked to see him maybe spend another year in college. There was, rumors thrown out that maybe he'd go play for like a Duquesne, and I would have liked to see him be the man, maybe at a smaller program than a USC, and see if he can do kind of like a, Steph Curry Davidson type of thing for a smaller program, but we're not going to get that. And obviously, we want to see what he's going to do at the NBA level, but I'd love to see him play with his father. I'm excited for that prospect, and I think that would be such a great storyline for the NBA, for the league, and maybe being in the NBA environment would be the best development for him overall, being in the fold with his father and getting that type of training. So who really knows, but I think everybody's rooting to see what that would look like at the next level. What else are people saying about this?
Carl Bells Jr. on Facebook says, quote, I'm sure a superstar that averages 4.2 points per game in college will do great against the pros.
Okay, yeah, so he's being facetious. Listen, yeah, he didn't do great stuff at USC. We know that. There's health issues. There's sample size issues. He really didn't do much to garner excitement about what he would look like at the next level. I think the interesting thing is that a lot of teams are going to be more interested in him than I think you and I are thinking, James, because I think teams want to attract LeBron James in however manner they can. I mean, LeBron kind of has floated out the idea that he's basically staying there. He now has J.J. Redick, but that LA Lakers team isn't doing too much to pose threats to the powerhouse teams in the NBA. I mean, having Austin Reeves and Anthony Davis is good, but what else do they got there? So I do think certain teams like the Dallas Mavericks, they have shown interest in Bronny James. So have the Timberwolves, so have the Suns. Those are teams that are all kind of competing for a championship. If LeBron goes to the Timberwolves, if LeBron goes to the Mavs, he's already played with Kyrie. I mean, I would move up and draft Bronny James early in the second round, maybe late first round, just to get LeBron in the fold. Who wouldn't want to do that? What do you think?
I just don't think that a lot of NBA teams will be willing to give up a pick and potentially waste a pick on Bronny James just for the chance to get a, almost 40-year-old LeBron for the last, few years of his career. And I think, I know you're saying that LeBron, LA is not really close. They got AD, they got Reeves, but outside of that, they're not really close. I don't think LeBron would care if the Lakers ended up getting Bronny. I don't think he would mind staying in LA for the rest of his career, maybe retire in Cleveland if the Lakers got Bronny. You get what I'm saying there?
No, I think his legacy is cemented in a lot of ways. I don't think they're close to competing. Frankly, the new CBA rules make it really difficult. You can't just add in another superstar to the mix with the new collective bargaining agreement. So you need to build out a roster more like the Celtics and have some, or the Timberwolves, and have a depth and have a bench and those types of things. So, yeah, I think at this point he's probably most interested in playing with Bronny. But I don't know. I mean, maybe certain teams can entice him, and I think he could go championship chasing on other teams maybe better than he could with the Lakers. He's really down to three options. He can either opt out of his $51 million deal, he can opt into it, or he could try to draw up a new contract with the Lakers. But I think everybody at home is rooting to see LeBron and Bronny paired together. We're going to be talking more about what that really looks like and how cool that would be in Sink or Swim. But right now we got to go to break, because coming up after the break, CJ Watson, former NBA veteran, he's going to tell us what he really thinks, what type of prospect Bronny James truly is. All right, welcome back to Sound Off Sports. Mike Davis here. I'm joined now by the newest member of the Southern Nevada Sports Hall of Fame, a local great guy, NBA vet, CJ Watson. CJ, great to be with you. Let's talk NBA draft stuff. I love the draft. Now, for you, it must bring up some weird memories, because you should have been drafted, but you weren't. Take me to that day when that was all going down in your household.
Just sitting in my parents' house on my bed, remembering my agent called me and said the Detroit Pistons were going to take me with the last pick. Obviously, I was excited. The pick came. My name didn't get called, so that was probably the first time I actually cried from basketball a little bit. And just after that, we're starting to figure out my next move, which is obviously playing for the Spurs in Summer League and then going overseas.
And then you ultimately went to the D League. You had a lot of success there. And then you had an amazing career. How many years in the NBA?
10 years.
10 years. So I think this is a great learning lesson. I mean, even though you were devastated, you were crying.
Yeah.
But you still went on to have a 10-year NBA career. So that fortitude, how did you find that within yourself to overcome that disappointment?
Just never wanting to quit and give up, especially give up on my dreams, and also my parents, my support system never let me give up and stuff like that. And always knew the bigger picture was the future, so I never thought about just at that right moment. I thought about always trying to get there, and I know I can play there, so just kept working myself to get there.
Let's talk about the draft, because it's so weird how so many executives, NBA executives, GMs, they miss on so many guys. I mean, it's just second round picks that we can mention.
Right.
Jokic, Jalen Brunson. I mean, there's so many guys, Draymond Green. There's so many guys that are second rounders. How do NBA GMs miss on this talent?
I don't know. Maybe they're not scouting correctly, or maybe they're just taking what they need at the time, or not taking the best player at the moment.
What do you think it is?
I can't call it. I don't know, because I didn't get drafted, so I feel like that was a miss. So I don't know. So I definitely think maybe something else has to change.
Yeah, I don't love that. But let's talk about this year's draft. So obviously you're doing a podcast right now on the Believe Network with the Bulls. So you're talking a lot of Bulls stuff. They're sitting right now at 11. This is a weak draft to begin with. It's not like there's an Anthony Edwards sitting at the top of the draft. So when you're sitting at 11, you got an interesting roster to begin with. You got the big contract with Zach LaVine that your hands are kind of tied with.
Right.
You got DeMar DeRozan you're hoping to kind of re-sign. But what do you do at 11? Who do you think they're going to target?
I think they target Isaiah Collier. He's a point guard at USC. I think they need some point guard help, that and three-point shooting. So like you said, they got to figure out DeMar and Zach first, and those two are going to be there, and then also just figure out the point guard situation.
And there's a lot of G League guys from the Ignite team that was operating here in Henderson. You called a few of those games. The big two guys, I mean, there's three guys getting, speculation in the first round. Tyler Smith, a big four guy, shooting, can shoot the three, but also kind of big man. But the two big guys are Modest Buzelis and Ron Holland. Now, leading into the season, people were thinking Ron Holland was the bona fide number one pick of the draft. Now there's a lot of interest of him going to the Memphis Grizzlies because they like that defensive grittiness kind of nature. So he kind of plays two ways. And Modest is getting a lot of speculation from the Pistons and the Spurs at 4 and 5. So those two guys, let's first start with Ron. it's unfortunate because he really was looking like the top pick of the draft. What do you think happened? Why did he fall so much in the eyes of a lot of these mock draft speculators?
Maybe just his outside shooting, I think, maybe. But I love his motor. He's still, like I said, he's still a young kid. He has great motor. He's fearless, loves to get to the basket. He didn't back down either. A lot of times when you see him playing against two-way players in the G League, he didn't back down at all. He kept going back at him. So that's one thing I definitely like from him.
Okay, and modest. I mean, it's easy to like this guy. The game kind of just comes to him in a weird way. He's very smooth. He kind of has a Spurs feel. I mean, when you think about who the Spurs like, he just, even a guy with a name like Modest Buzelis, the Boris Diaws, I mean, they just are into those Manu Ginobili type guys. So tell me, I mean, do you think that's where he ultimately lands? And how much of success in the NBA is dictated or predicated upon the fact of landing in the right spot?
I mean, that's the big thing. I think when Wemby went to the Spurs, I knew he was going to be fine because the Spurs organization is just great.
Right.
But so I definitely think if Montes can go there, he'll definitely make a big name for himself. He'll learn how to play the game the Spurs way, which is every franchise has their own way.
Yeah.
But learning under Pop is like one of the greatest coaches ever. So you can't get any better than that.
If you remember, like all those years ago when Eli Manning was drafted number 1, and his parents were like, well, you're not going to go to San Diego Chargers. You're going to, we're not going to let you go there.
Right.
Like, if you were modest and you had an agent and a family and all this stuff surrounding, let's just say, like, there was talk that the Pistons were going to maybe trade up to get you or something like that and go above the Spurs.
Yeah.
Could you actually, in today's age, you think, just say, listen, we're not showing up to Detroit, like we want to go?
Yeah, you can, yeah.
Would you do that?
I mean, if you didn't think the Pistons were going to be that good, and like I said, to get a chance to coach, be coached by Greg Popovich, I would definitely take that chance.
So another thing I have to ask you here, because everybody's talking about this, Bronny James, okay? He had some health issues at USC. I know you mentioned earlier you love Isaiah Collier.
Yeah.
But Bronny James, I mean, he's being talked about as a second-round pick.
Yeah.
From a couple things. One, talent-wise, is he a second-round pick or a first-round pick, and how much of this situation is really the fact that his last name is James, and teams are trying to maybe attract LeBron by drafting Bronny?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he's only getting this recognition because of, his dad is who he is.
Really? So watching his game, you're like, there's nothing special.
I mean, there's nothing special. I definitely think he could have stayed maybe another year or two and developed more. Do I think he gets drafted? I don't know. Maybe if they're trying to attract LeBron, like you said, but I don't think he's ready right now. I think he would have been ready another year or two. But I definitely think he's an NBA player, but just not right now, I feel like.
Okay, so there's nothing from his game, there's nothing that spectacular.
I don't think so. He's kind of, he doesn't shoot it that well. He's not super big to be a point guard. I don't know if his decision-making is that great for a point guard, maybe a shooting guard, but at the end of the day, he's probably too small to be a two guard in the NBA, but I don't know. So I'm not a GM. That's why I'm not picking. So
it's fascinating. So you're if you had a prediction, you're going to say second round.
Yeah, second round or undrafted probably. Yeah.
And where do you think he winds up?
Maybe the Lakers. I don't know, or Dallas, somewhere like that. I think LeBron would be a good fit in Dallas if he happens to test free agency.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff. I think he's going to go first round. I think
you think so?
It's crazy because I just think these GMs, once it gets past 12, 11, 13, 14,
it's a toss-up, yeah.
It's just a toss-up, so you might as well try to get LeBron on the roster. The great C.J. Watson, newest member of the Southern Nevada Sports Hall of Fame. Great to see you, C.J.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. Guys, we'll be right back after a short break. Hello, welcome back to Sound Off Sports. All right, so now we're going to be talking about Connor McDavid. Yes, he wins the playoff MVP, the Conn Smythe Award for the NHL, but the Oilers lose in the Stanley Cup after clawing back from a 3-0 deficit. So, James, we asked everybody at home, should Connor McDavid, should he have still received the Conn Smythe Award even though the Oilers didn't win the Cup? What are people at home saying about this?
I think it's ridiculous that Connor McDavid won the Conn Smythe Award. The guy was a non-factor for the last two games of the Stanley Cup, and he basically got way outplayed by Barkov in the first three games. If anybody should have won it, it should have been either Barkov of the Florida Panthers or Sergei Bobrovsky, who I know he had his 3 games of poor performance, but the guy overall was pretty amazing. Personally, Barkov gets the nod from me.
Yeah, it's there. Listen, this is a very intriguing issue. We've been talking about this in the back office for days. There's a lot of drama surrounding this. So it's fascinating. There's a lot of angles to come at from an opinion standpoint on whether he should have gotten the Smythe Award. James, I'm curious, where do you lay and rest on this issue?
So I understand that McDavid is the greatest hockey player in the world today. I understand that he had a historic playoff performance, became the third player ever to eclipse 40 points in a single postseason. He's now the all-time leader in a single postseason for assists with 30-some.
Yeah.
Surpassed Wayne Gretzky. I understand the greatness of this run, but at the end of the day, he lost. And the MVP of the playoffs, the Conn Smythe, should never go to a player on the losing team. And I understand that's not what the Conn Smythe is. People who have lost have won it in the past.
Yeah.
And I understand the spirit of the Conn Smythe. But I'm questioning the spirit of the Conn Smythe. I think it's dumb. Why are we giving an MVP to somebody who didn't win?
It's an intriguing thing. It's happened, 6 times now with him getting this for the 6th time. But let's hear what other people are saying at home.
No, I don't have a problem with McDavid winning the playoff MVP. Jerry West won it against the Celtics in the finals on a losing team with the Lakers. So go, McDavid.
Yeah, R.I.P. to the late, great Jerry West. Yeah, I can argue both sides. I'm in agreement a little bit, though, more so on he should be deserving of this award and should have gotten it. But let's hear one more before I jump in.
You can't have a member of the losing team win the MVP of a series. That doesn't make any sense. Great performances are part of the game, but you've got to have somebody from the championship team win the Conn Smythe. It goes with any other most valuable player in any other sport. You've got to have a player from that winning team has to win the MVP. It just is the way it has to be. That's part of the joy and part of the reward for winning. Just my opinion, but I'm right.
I love Todd there. Thanks, Todd, for calling in. He's in agreement and alignment with you, James. Listen, I think
he's right.
He
said so.
He said he was right. It's his opinion, but he is right. Listen, yes, it's hard to disagree with that. I do think, though, when you look at the performance of what he has accomplished from a record and just tangible standpoint, this playoff run, it's pretty remarkable. I mean, you already said he broke Gretzky's assist record, right? Mm-hmm. He was only 5 points shy of breaking Gretzky's 47-point scoring record, from the entire playoffs. He had 42 there. I think a big issue here is that he didn't perform a lot in those first 3 games.
He didn't have a point in game 6 or 7.
Right, and so it's difficult to argue there. He did set a record for becoming the first player in Stanley Cup Finals history to score 4 points in consecutive games. So he did do that. He broke a lot of records, but I think a lot of this is, I think NHL fans, we want somebody of this caliber. You want to give it to a guy like that to garner excitement for the sport and say, like, how great would it have been if the Oilers did win? Right. That would have been a great thing to give it to a guy like that who is so exciting, so phenomenal, and really, trend-setting in the sport that has so many heroes. But, listen, it's the pro hockey writers. This is their choice. 16 out of 17 guys, almost a consensus, voted for him. So, they got to be seeing something here to feel like he's done so much remarkable stuff throughout the playoffs that we got to give it to him for that performance throughout the series. But yeah, it's hard to argue with guys like you and Todd, because you do, from just a sentimental standpoint, want to award it to somebody who's doing that for the winning team.
Absolutely, and I understand what the Conn Smythe is. What it's been for years, it's been able to go to somebody on the losing team, and I understand that. And from that perspective, yes, it should have gone to Connor McDavid. I just think that is a silly way to be. I think it's ridiculous that an MVP trophy could ever go to somebody on a losing team, and that's really my standpoint.
No,
there.
I agree. I do. You're convincing me. Do we have one more?
We got one more.
Okay.
Regarding Connor McDavid,
being the NHL playoff MVP. I do agree with it because he had 8 goals and 34 assists. Nobody else was close. And remember, MVP stands for the most valuable player. He definitely was for the Oilers, and they would not have been in the playoffs final without him.
Thanks for the buzz, Doug Keith in North Las Vegas. Yeah, listen, I mean, he did some remarkable stuff. We're not just handing Conn Smythe awards out to every losing, a dominant performance from a losing team every year. It's the 6th time this has happened. The last time it happened was in 1976. So This isn't a frequent occurrence. The thing that's crazy, though, is he really did have a dominant playoff performance. The last time somebody had the most points in a single postseason, he broke it, was Malkin, your boy Malkin.
Gina.
With 36 in 08 and 09, so he had 42.
It's an absolutely historic. It's stupid what he did.
It's historic.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's a hard thing. You want to give the Conn Smythe to the guy who's on the winning side of the equation, but if a historic performance happens, a historic performance happens. Listen, coming up after a short break, we're going back to the Bronny James thing. We're talking about a son and a father potentially teaming up at the NBA level. It's exciting stuff. We've only seen it really 2 other times in sports history. We'll talk about that after the break. All right, welcome back. So lastly, for Sink or Swim, we got to talk about Bronny James and LeBron James a little bit more. This could be a historic, really, pairing. We've seen it in baseball with Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr., of course. In hockey, we saw it with Mr. Hockey, Gordie Howe, and his 2 sons, Mark and Marty. They played together for a little bit. But this would be the first time in the NBA we have a father and a son playing together on the same roster. It would be such a sweet thing to see, no matter if you're a LeBron hater, a LeBron lover, a Lakers hater, a Lakers lover. This is something we can all, in unison, root for. Let's hope it happens at the NBA draft. We'll see you guys next week on SOS.